Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. In clinical programming, the SDTM mapping spec is one of the important documents which the clinical programmers will use to generate the datasets. Anyone who is first time working on the creation of these mapping specifications, for those people, it will be little difficult to understand which document to refer, what to see, and how to generate this mapping specification. So this video is mainly for those people who are working on the creation of these mapping specification for the first time or are in their initial stages. So in this video, I will be talking about how to create the SDTM mapping specification for DM domain. And we will be talking about all the documents which we can consider and how to generate the spec. So right now I'm showing you the aCRF of one of the study, which is a open label study. And we have, this is a dose escalation study, which this is an open label 1B phase study, which is an dose escalation study. So in this case, the subjects will receive the dose and they will be aware of which dose they are getting. And it will be, it the few people will have one level of dose, the other will have more increased dose, and so on. So this is a dose escalation study. So if we see from the trial arms information here also, this study have 4 trial arms, and you can see that one group will be assigned to this one level of dose, the others will be assigned to second, third, and fourth level, although the drug is same. So in this case, what we have is we have a screening period, we have a treatment period, then a follow-up period. So we have 3 periods in this, or you can say epoch also. And in those epochs, we have screening, 2 treatment period, which are divided into cycle 1, cycle 2. And in the follow-up also, we have a safety follow-up and a long-term follow-up. All these are same for all the 4 arms. So this is the basically the design of the study. Moving ahead on the CRF creation, not the creation, but using the CRF to generate the DM specification. So first of all, it is important to note that which SDTM IG we will be using in our study. So once we have that information, we should refer that particular IG as one of the document to create the SDTM mapping spec. For this study, we will be using the SDTM version 3.2. So right now, I am showing you the 3.2 version of SDTM, and in this document, you can see all the DM variables along with their labels and type and all the other features that will be used to create our specification. So right now, when we are generating the specification or writing the specification, one approach on the tedious approach can be that we copy the variable name and its label and copy and paste to our Excel document here in the variable name or the variable label. That will be a little time consuming. So I will be telling you the easier way how to do that. Once you are aware of which version you have to use, you can go to this particular link. I will share this link in my description box as well. Although you can go directly to this link from the cdisk.org site, and in that site, you can select the CDISC library. Once you do that, you will be navigated to this page. In this page, you can see on the left-hand side that all of the SDTM versions along with their models are already listed down. So based on which version of SDTM IG you are using, you can go and select that hyperlink here. And since I'm using the 3.2, I have gone to 3.2 version here. And you can see this is the page you will see. So in this, although we have segregation on the classes, and since this is special purpose, you can see the data sets which are coming in the data sets for special purpose class as well. However, if you go to the export file and click on this drop down, you will see 3 different types of files which is there. So if you will click on any of it, a file will be downloaded. Right now, I'm not going to download it because I've downloaded it, but if I have clicked the Excel file here, the XLS file, what will happen? A file will be downloaded and I will show you the file. So this is the file which was downloaded. And if I show you, let it open. So right now in this file, you have the README variables and the datasets tab. In datasets tab, you will have all the datasets which are present as per your SDTM IG 3.2 versions, their label and their structure as well. But right now, what I want is I want to go to the variables tab. So in this variable tab, if you will see, there are they have listed for each dataset. They have listed for each dataset, as you can see from this drop down. And let me select the DM dataset first. And in DM dataset, you have all the variables, the variable label, their type, the code list or the format which is being applied to their respective variables, along with the role, which is whether it is identifier, topic, variable, what type of role it is, and the CDISC nodes. And along with that, we have the core also, which is whether the variable is required, expected, or permissible. So in short, you can see that this Excel file is very much similar to this table, which is here. But right now, what is convenient with this file is that it is still, since it is in the Excel format, I can directly copy and create a new file for my specifications like this. So right now, what I did was I copied the fields from here, which I need from this Excel file directly, and I've created another file, which is my DM mapping specification here. So instead of copy pasting the variable name and variable label and other features from my IG here, what I have done is I have used the Excel format of that IG provided by the CDISC. So in this, I have also kept my variable order, the label, name, the type, and the code list and format. So in code list and format, if you see the 3.2 version here, although they have created these four uh, columns, what I did in my mapping specification is that I created only one where I will be mentioning the CT or the format which is applied. So in this case, for example, for this particular variable, we have the format that is the ISO 8601 format applied. And whereas for the this particular variable, which is the death flag, we have a code list mentioned. So instead of having these values in four different columns for my mapping specification, I created only one. And whether a format was applied or whether a code list was applied, I have mentioned the same in this column. It is as per your study requirement. If you want to keep different columns, you can keep that way, or if you want to keep in one column, you can keep in this way also. I've kept the role and the core variable information as well as the type information. So columns from A to G are the columns which I have derived, or you can say copied from my 3.2 IG versions here. And it has reduced a lot of my time instead of copying from the PDF file of the SDTM version. So once I have got this, all the list of the variables, I can proceed with how to create the programming notes, which is the notes which will be used in our SDTM mapping. That is writing the SAS code or the R code, whichever is you are using. So now let's see how that can be done. Now coming to the CRF first, we have the annotated CRF. So to understand which which form will capture the DM dataset information, or to know from this CRF form which raw dataset is created, what we have to do is we have to go through the CRF form and note down the pages for which you have the annotation done for the DM variable. So right now in this CRFs, this CRF is only listed based on the CRF forms and are not listed based on the visit information. So because of that, what I have to do, I have to go through this CRF page by page initially and see at right now, if I see on this page at the top, this page will be annotated only for AE, that is the adverse event domain. So from this, we can know that which pages are annotated for my DM domain. See, so if I go through all these pages, I will get to know which page is for DM, because at the top you can see the annotation of the domain to which this form is annotated. So I have already done for this CRF, so I will not be going through completely, but I will be going through the exact pages. So the first occurrence of my DM domain was the page number 22 and 23. So let's go to page number 22. So here you can see I have the annotation for DM domain, and you can see that this page was annotated to three different um, domains, out of which DM is one, and the color coding for DM is used as the yellow one. So right now you can see in this page, this is the DD page, that is the death detail page. And if dosing details page here. So because of that, you can scroll down, because this is in continuation. This is the first question on the one page of the death detail dosing detail form. And if you scroll down, you have the information of the cycle day, date of dosing, number of capsule, time of dose, time of meal, and comments captured. And if you see the which is in yellow, the annotation in yellow, that is for the RF ENDTC, RF X ENDTC. This is date of dose and time of dose. So we have date and time both annotated here, and we will be using this two informations to generate our these variables. Okay, so in this way we can get to know. Now, since we know that this is the DD page, you can also see we have below the entry, you have the variable name of the uh, in the DD data set. You also have the variable name as well, in which this particular information is captured. So let's see how it is. So right now, let's understand the EX DD page. Here, right now, I'm showing you the raw data set which we have coming from the CRF page. So in this DD page, the TD data set or the DDCRF page, you can see that it is capturing the data set which is information about the intermittent dosing. And in this, you can have you have the D1, dat variable, D2 dat variable, and so on for all the variables, along with their time as well, which is D1, DTIM, which is for the cycle one, day one, cycle one informations, and similarly for D2 as well, and so on. So if you see these variables, this is for day one, D2 is for day two, the day three, and so on, and we have the timing. So what we understand here is that this data set, that is the dosing detail data set, will be used to get the information of our dosing dates. Okay, so that is one data set. And come similarly, if you see the next, which is the 33, which is the DM data set. In this page, you have the DM page. This is the exact DM page, which is having all the main SDTM DM variables captured here. That is your birth date, age, sex, ethnicity, race, and so on. So all this information is being captured, and this is captured in your DM page of the data set. So right now, this is the DM raw data set. And in this page, you can see you have the YOB as the birth date. How the YOB? Because here you can see that year of birth is captured in your DM datasets YOB variable. In this study, we are only capturing the year. We are not capturing the complete date of birth. So right now, only the year part will be mapped to your birth date. So similarly, you have all the information of your other variables and which variable it will be coming from the DM dataset. So we have all those information populated here, and you can see that what is the format. Taking, for example, the format of the variable which is sex. So right now in this variable, you can see that it is populated as single letter, capital M or F. So when we are going to map the SX variable in our SDTM mapping, you can directly say that we just copy this particular variable from our raw dataset DM to our SDTM dataset DM. Similarly, you can see for ethnic also what is the variables and which we can use. It will be in this case, since ethnic is having a coded information 123, but the decoded value is present in ethnic underscore DEC. We will be using this variable for the ethnic variable. Coming to the race variable, we have 4 or 5 variables being created, which is capturing the information of race. And if you see in if the subject has reported the race as white or black, whatever the information it has reported, that is populated as a X in the respective column. So that way you can see it is populated. So right now there can be a scenario where the subject has reported multiple race. So in that case, more than one of these columns will have the value populated as X. So we will see how to deal with this type of scenarios to populate the race. So in this way, you will have to note down all the forms which are being annotated to your domain. Right now in this video we are talking about DM, so I have listed down all the data sets or all the CRF pages which are annotated to our DM page. Now let's see another 2 page. We will see one is the end of study, end of treatment, and the IC page. So let's go to 34 page number. And if you see, this is the DS EOS, that is end of study CRF form. So this is capturing the date of study discontinuation, its reason, and if others, then the other specified. But the point to note here is that we have a variable which is EFPENTTC, which tells captures the information of the end of the study participation for the subject. So for that, this variable is mapped from the end of study raw data sets, and in that data set, the DSDAT variable. So if you go to the end of study data set, you can see you will have the DSDAT variable, which is capturing the date information, and you know that the subject ended this study, and the reason for it is also captured in your DS term underscore DEC, that is the decoded value, whereas the DS term is the coded value. Similarly, if you go to the EOT form as well, which is the next form, the EOT, this is the end of treatment. Now, the point is, this is the treatment, end of treatment. So from here, the information which is captured in EOT DSDAT is the information of your RFX ENDTC, that is the last dosing date. We also have the information coming from the DSTRT DAT, which is if the subject has chosen to discontinue from all study treatment. So because of all this, we have this variable as well. So we will be considering this variable as well to capture the RFP ENDTC. Now, another form is our the IC form. So this is the IC form, that is the informed consent form. So in this form, you have the informed consent signature date, which is captured in your IC dataset in the variable RFICDAT variable. And we will be using this dataset and this variable from this dataset to populate the RFICDTC variable. So in this way, you have the informations coming from these variables. Now coming to the another form, which is the death form, which is captured here in the 45th page. So here in 45th page, you can see this is the DTH form, which is the death, and it is capturing the information of date of death, cause of death. If it is the cause of death is AE, then the primary AE and other details. But the information from this form, which is going to the demographics domain, is that the date of death. That and in this DTH dataset, the DTH DAT variable will capture the date of death and it will be mapped to your DTH DTC. Right now, although there is no dedicated variable assigned for the capturing of death flag, but we know that for the subjects who have for which this form is entered, that is a date of death is being entered, for those subjects we can definitely populate their death flag as Y. So although there was not a specifically asked question, but since we know that the death flag equals to Y is being annotated in this form. Now coming on to the another important CRF form, that is the exposure information. So from this exposure form also, you will see that this form is also annotated to your DM domain. Why? Because if you see, we are again having the information of your RF SDTC or RFX SDTC being captured from your date dose taken in clinic or the time dose taken in clinic. So these two informations will be used to derive the RF SDTC or a RFX SDTC. So in this way, you can identify the CRF forms and their respective raw data sets and their variables from which this information will be populated. There we have another form, which is IE and the SV, which we have to consider that those are the forms. Let's go to the 58th page number, and this is the IE form. That is the inclusion exclusion criteria form. So in this form, you will have a question that did the subject meet all eligibility criteria, yes or no response. If the response is no, that means the subject, there is some criteria which the subject has not met, because of which the subject is screen failure. So if the response, if for any particular subject there is the response is no, for that we know that subject is screen failure, because of which in this study we have annotated this field to your ARM-CD, that ARM-CD will be populated as screen failure if the response to this question is no. So, and the response to this question is being captured in your I dataset, which is the I raw dataset in the I1N YN variable. So in this way, you will be using all this information. There are some subquals as well populated here, annotated here, which you can use to create the subdomain mapping spec as well. Now coming to another domain, which is the SV domain, because in this SV form, this CRF form, we are again capturing the visit date, which is being used to populate again the RFP ENDTC. So we will see how these forms, we have seen that RFP ENDTC is being annotated on multiple forms. So how we will populating this particular variable in our data set. So having checked all these CRF forms and taken appropriate notes out of it, we can refer our raw data sets along with the CRF forms and generate the data mapping spec. Now let's move ahead how to generate the spec. So right now, the first variable which we have for the DM is study ID. Right now in this CRF form which we are checking, although they have not specifically annotated the study ID, but we do have our protocol SAP also. So from there, you can know that what is the study ID. So if you see from the start, at the beginning, the protocol number is being mentioned here. So we can identify from this that what is the study ID. So since we know the study ID, we will hard code it and the same value in the CRF form. Sorry, the mapping specification. Similarly for domain, since we know that this is the mapping spec for DM domain, we can hard code it as it is. Now comes the use subject ID. So for this, let's see the data. So right now, I am going back to the DM domain, DM raw dataset. So in raw dataset, you can see that you have a subject number and site number as well. You can see from the site number that the subject number is having the concatenation of site number and the subject number somehow. So what we can do is from this information, although they are not capturing the study ID, but we have already created the study ID variable initially as our first variable in our DM domain. So what we can do is we can just write the logic for uSubject ID that it will be the concatenation of the study ID, which is this value, along with the raw dataset DM subnum. So in this uh, dataset, you can see the subnum is the concatenation of site ID as well as the subject ID. So in this way, we can just use these two variables and just separate these two variables while concatenating with a hyphen sign. So in this way, you can mention the logic to populate this uSubject ID. For the subject ID, since we have a subnum variable which is capturing the information of the subject ID, which is the concatenation of the site ID and subject ID, you can use that as well as it is for the subject ID. Now coming to the second most important variable, that is the RF STDTs variable or a RF ENDTC variable. We have in 3.2 version, we have two types of reference start variables or the study start variables. That is, there is a confusion whether the RF STDTC or RFX STDTC will have what type of information it will have. So again, although I have explained in detail all these difference between all these four variables in my DM videos on the SDTM DM domain, I will give you a brief about these variables in this video as well. The RF STDTC tells about the reference about the start of the study. This date can be the first dosing date, or it can be the informed consent date or the enrollment date. So it depends on what the protocol says as what marks the start of the study for a subject. If the in signing of the informed consents marks the start of this trial for the subject, then the informed consent date will be populated as your reference start date here. However, in this study, we have the first dosing date as the start of the study, because of which the logic for RF STDTC as well as the RFX STDTC will be same, because RFX STDT is nothing but the date and time of first study dose received by the subject. So if in this uh, case, what you can see is these two variables will have the same logic, that we will have to concatenate the EX start date and EX start time. As you can see that in EX dataset, we are capturing the dosing date as the separate variables. One is for the date only, the other is for the time. So based on this, you will concatenate these two variables in the ISO format and generate the desired date here. So here, these two variables will be concatenated in the ISO format. That is, right now, again, this date will be in the YYMMDD 10 dot format, then a T, then this will be in your HHMMSS format. So that is the format which we will use. So this is the logic we can mention. The same logic we will see is mentioned in your RFX STDTC. Now comes the second variable, which is the RFEN DTC. So in this variable, this is the end of the study for the subject. It is not the end of the dosing, it is the end of the study. So end of study for this, in this study, we have a separate dedicated form, which is the EOS form. So from the EOS form, you will see that it will have the records for all the subjects for which the study has ended. So you can see that there are 6 subjects for which we have the end of study form populated, and from the DS dat variable, we can get to know the date as well on which the study was ended. So this variable will be used to populate the ENDTC variable, RF ENDTC variable in our DM domain. And again, we have to convert it into ISO format. So we will use that, mention that we will use this variable and populate the ISO, populate this variable in ISO 8601 format. Please note that this information was also we have seen in the DS EOS form. Let's go through here. That was the page number 34. So if you see here, we have date of study discontinuation also mapped here. So we have to use these variables. So another variable, which is the study date and time of last study treatment. So here again, we will construct the form, which is the end of treatment form. Now, this variable is talking about the treatment end date. So that's why we will be considering the EOT form. And if you go to the EOT form here, again, it is captured in the similar way. We have the DS dat variable again in this variable data set. So this variable we will be using, or it's the treatment end date. So we will be using the treatment variable this way in this form. And we can generate the, again, using this date, we can generate the treatment end date in the ISO format. So having done this, next variable is the informed consent date and time. So here again, we have a variable coming from the informed consent form. We have the IC form, which is the DSIC, and in this form, we can see there is a variable which is the DSCAT. So in this study, there was, based on the protocol amendment, a reconsent was signed by the subject. So right now, in the IC form or in the RFIC DTC, we will capture only the first informed consent signed date. So if any subject who has signed the informed consent once and has reconsented on the next protocol amendment, we will still consider the first informed consent date as our RFIC DTC variable. So because of that, when we are going to use this DSIC form data set to get the RFIC DTC, we have to filter out on the DS category variable. So we have applied a logic that when you consider this DS underscore IC data set and consider the records where the DS category is informed consent, if this variable is informed consent, then using the IC variable, which is the RFIC DAT variable in this data set, which is this variable, use this variable value to populate the IC DTC variable in your ISO format. So in this way, you can mention the logic for the population of RFIC DTC. Coming to the RFPEN DTC, that is the date and time of end of participation. So we have seen that this variable was mapped to multiple CRF forms. So what we will do is that from all those CRF forms, and we know that which variable was capturing the date, because you can see that in EOS, which is the end of study form, we have the DA dat variable, and similarly in EOT also we have the DS dat variable. We had this variable annotated in our SV domain, that was the visit date. If you remember, let me show you again, which is right now in US, you can see that it is annotated. It is in EOT as well. You can see it is annotated to this variable. That is the TRT dat. And then we have 110, which was the visit date, also annotated to this variable. So this was annotated in 3 form. So from there, we will use these 3 variables and we will see what is the maximum date, because this is the end of participation. That will be the last visit which has happened for the subject, or the last interaction we know the subject was still present in the study. From that logic, we will derive the maximum date from these 3 dates and populate that date in your ISO format. So from that way, in that way, you can populate the RFPE and DTC date. Next is the DTC variable, which is the date and time of death. Again, we have seen that we have the date captured in your DTH raw data set in the variable DTH DAT again. So we will be using this variable from this data set and populate it in ISO format. Next is death flag, and we will apply a condition that if the DTH death date, that is the DTH DTC is populated, populate this death flag as Y. Else we will keep it as null. Now this next is the site ID. So again, we have seen that in the DM domain, we have the site number variable, which is capturing the site ID information. So from using this data set, you can annotate, you can write a logic that this data set, the site ID will be created from the raw data set DM from variable site num, and it has to be converted into character format. Why? Because if you see, the site number is in the numeric format in the raw data set, but however, the site ID is a character format in your SDTM DM domain. So the information which is coming from the site number should be converted to a character format. In this study, we do not have the information of the investigator identifier or the investigator name captured. Because of this, these two variables, since these are permissible variables as well, as you can see from the core information provided by the IG, these two variables can be removed from the SDTM domain. So right now, to explain you about these two variables, I have kept these two variables in the specification, but highlighted in yellow because these two variables will not be created in my SDTM DM domain for this study. Next is the birth date. And we have seen that in the DM form, we have the YOB, which was capturing the year of birth only. So we have used that variables to populate the birth date. Again, although it is only the year, we will make sure that it is in the ISO format. So we have given the value, the logic that populate the EOB in your ISO format here. Next is the age, which was coming from the age variable in your DM raw data set. So we are directly using that variable. And since when you see the data, let's see the data for this once. If you see the data, it is clear that this date is in years, although it was not specifically mentioned in your CRF form, but from checking the data, you can identify that this value is in years. So what we have done is we have populated the age unit as years here. Same is the case for sex, that we have used the sex variable, and we have seen that sex DEC variable was having the sex variable was having the information of sex in directly, which is M and F format, which we want to populate in our SDTM domain. If we would have used this sex underscore DEC, then we would have to convert the male to M and female to F, because that is the way we have to populate in our SDTM sex variable. Now coming to the race. Checking from data, we can see that we are populating from these many columns, we are populating it as X with whichever is the race. So using this, what we can write a logic is that if the DM white column, that is this white column, or this white black column, or this native column, or whatever the columns these are, whichever column is marked as X, we can populate the race accordingly. For example, here that if only, here please note that only is an important factor here, why I will be telling you in few minutes. Right now, if only DM white is marked as X, then the race will be populated as Y. And similarly, if only DM black is populated as X, it will be black or African American. So from where I'm getting this value, let's understand this. Now going back to the DM form, let me see which is the DM form. It was the 33 page number. So in this DM form, if you see, these were the variables in which variables of the raw data set in which the value was captured. So when the DM black is being populated as X, that means the race is black or African American. Similarly, for native, it is American, Indian, or Alaskan natives. Pacific, we have the native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Asian as Asian, white as white. And for other, we have the other. For race UNK, it is unknown or declined, but since we have a race code list being applied here, so when we are populating these values, we have to make sure that these values are in accordance with the race code list. So from there, what we have done is we are not only making sure the value is same, but we have, you can see the case of the value which we are populating is in the uppercase. So based on which variable the value is marked as X, we will have their respective race being populated. But in case there are more than one variable out of these uh, 6 variables being populated as X, then in that case, we will populate as multiple. So in last row, you can see it is mentioned that the race will be multiple if more than one of these variable is marked as X. So because of this logic, it is important to mention that only if we have to check whether these particular, when we are checking individually, that only these variables are marked as X. If more than these variables are marked as X, we have to populate as multiple. Coming to the ethnic variable, we had the ethnic populated in the descripted variable here. Right now, the ethnic underscore DEC was variable was having the information populated in the uh, as the text value, whereas the ethnic was in the coded format. So because of which I am using the ethnic underscore DEC variable instead of the ethnic. But again, make sure while populating that this value is in accordance with your ethnic code list. Now coming to the most important variables that are the ARM code and the actual ARM code. So for the ARM and ARM code, normally when the study, for any study, we will have to consider the randomization file as well as the TA file. I have shown you the TA file earlier here where we have the information of your ARM and ARM code in this, but we do, obviously the TA is the subject independent file, so we will not have the subject ID information here, because of which we will have to consider the randomization file. The randomization file or the randomization dataset is the dataset which captures the information of your subject along with the group or the arm the subject was assigned to. So right now, in this study, we do not have that type of randomization. So because of that, we are only using the information from the EX dataset. From where it is happening, let me show you. In the EX dataset, let me show you the form first. That is 51. So in this EX dataset, CRF form also, you will see the dosing level. This study was a dose escalation study. So we know that each and every subject will definitely receive the same drug, but the dosing will be different. So depending on which level dosing it will receive, we have 4 different arms being defined in the study. So the dose level is being captured in your EX form in the EX level variable. So right now, what I have seen is that in EX level, you have 1A, 2A, 3A, which is in accordance with my TA, because in this study, we are giving the ARIS 101 drug, and based on the level, which is 1A, 2A, or 3A, we have the arm defined. So from this information, that is the EX level information, I have created the ARM code here that first of all, definitely if the subject is a screen failure, then you have to populate the ARM code as screen fail. So I put a filter that if in the inclusion exclusion form, the IYN is populated as N, that is the subject has not passed all the screening criteria, then populate as screen failure, else concatenate the arrays with my EX level variable to generate the ARM code. Make sure that why have write the arrays and not arrays 101, because if you will see the TA, the ARM code is arrays along with the level. We do not have any other value populated. So you checking from the TA file here, I have generated the code here, logic here, that we have to use the arrays variable value. It's only to concatenate with the EX level. Whereas for the ARM variable, along with the screen failure logic, when you are populating the value of the ARM for non subjects who are not screen failure, what we are doing is we are just getting the ARM code value which we have just derived, and we are merging the TA file here, and from the TA file, based on the ARM code value, we are getting the ARM value. So if the ARM code is arrays1, the ARM will be populated as this particular value, which is arrays -101 space 1, and similarly for the other one. So what will this ensure is that our ARM and ARM code values are in sync with our TA file. So because of this, we have provided a logic that to populate the ARM, we will have to consider the TA ARM variable based on the merge between the ARM code and the TA ARM code and the ARM code, this particular variable values here. Again, since I mentioned that we do not have in this study, we do not have the randomization file which will mention us the planned randomization, that is the group which is it was assigned, and it is understood from this that what was assigned was also planned for the subject. So because of that, my actual ARM code and actual ARM logic will be same to my ARM code and ARM variable. But in ideal scenarios, when you do have the randomization file, you will consider the randomization file, and from there, the planned ARM information will go to the ARM code variable here. But whereas for the actual ARM code, you will have to see the actual TRT, which is the EXTRT the subject has received. So for this study, since it is same, so I have given the same logic to both of the ARM code and the ARM code, actual ARM code variable, along with the ARM and actual ARM. So the same logic is mentioned, and this study was a single site study, and that was the information for the USA study, USA site. So the country was the USA being hard coded in your TRF in this mapping specification. Although if in your study, study is a multi-site, multi-country study, then there will be a variable which is capturing the information for country. You have to use that variable to populate the country. Again, for the last two variables, which is the DMDTC and DMDY, we do not have this information in our study, and this is also not required in our study. So we have we are not keeping it in our study, and we are mentioning it by highlighting in yellow, as we have done for the investigator information as well, that these four variables will not be a part of my SDTM DM dataset in this study. So in this way, you can write the SDTM mapping spec. If you like this video, let me know in comments, and let me know in comments about any other topics which you want me to cover. Do like and subscribe if you want more interesting videos on these topics. Thanks for watching.